Alright guys, this video we're going to go ahead and talk about what are the expectations for the last leg of our year-long project, and where we're going to be talking about the career research and reflection that hopefully you've gotten from the work that you've put into this. I've had to push this assignment back a little bit because I'm still unsure of how we're handling grades, but this is a piece that I want you to have a lot of pride in because you have put time into it, you've put some effort into it, and I'm looking forward to seeing some really quality work as the final part of this. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about how we're going to incorporate the past work, what format I want to see the final product in, some information checklists so you can double check and make sure that you have all of the information that you need. A little bit about the submission notes, and loosely setting some due dates because we still got to be a little flexible about that with everything that's been going on. So let's go back and look at what we've covered. Okay? We know back at the beginning of the year, we started talking about the engineering interviews. Some of you did videos, others did chats, others did audio recordings. Some of them had full transcriptions, and it's amazing seeing what family, friends, people that you've done internships with, the things that you learned from those that are out in the field, and a lot of them were giving you some solid feedback about what it is you can be doing in high school, what you can be doing when you get to college. You know, how do you move forward in whatever field that you ultimately choose to go into? And part of that assignment was understanding the challenges that go into it. And obviously, school closings due to the coronavirus have definitely added some challenges. You've gotten some information out there that you can go ahead and incorporate into this assignment. Similarly, in 2.1.0 and the career field descriptions, where you started honing in on what you wanted to go into. Okay, the fields that caught your attention, not necessarily the same of the engineers and the technicians that you interviewed, but something that's caught your attention. And you were able to go ahead and look at the companies that are out there, where they're located in terms of geography. You were able to go ahead and start getting an idea of the education requirements that's expected. You were looking at job descriptions, job postings, and finding out what was it that companies in the field that you want to go into, or maybe companies that you want to work for, require for you to be hired and employed by them. Now, some of you also looked at the professional organizations that can help support you through college, can support you in the careers that you go into. So it's another thing that's nice to go ahead and be able to tie into this assignment. And finally, in the first part of the spring semester, we were able to go ahead and talk about career demand, the salary, the education that goes into that. A lot of us were using information from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, although many of you were going above and beyond that. You were looking at more job postings. You were looking at colleges, some of the colleges that you want to go to, some that are just renowned for that field. Others, we're actually looking, as I'd recommended, community colleges and ways to go ahead and help reduce the cost of your education, or understanding how, even though they offer similar programs, there are different academic skills that are needed for some of them. Okay? And I want you to include that as part of this. And then we're going to talk about what's expected with kind of this assignment in particular, and how I'm expecting that you're going to find some new information based on basically an iteration. So while time management has been a big goal in this project, and getting you to understand that it's not just day-to-day homework, it's something you have to keep kind of on the back burner, keep it cooking, add some more to it as time goes on. I also want you to think about how to incorporate iterations to it. How can you go back and add to something that you know that you didn't do too well? So for this section, kind of the checkpoint that we'll have in this, I want you to look back at what you've done. Could be the notes of work that you have, but I never saw. It can be the work that you turned in, and you recognize that something didn't fit too well. Go back and look at the feedback that I left. But I want you to go ahead and find at least one thing. Okay, and you can find multiple things. I encourage that. But find at least one thing that you think that you can make some solid improvements on. Okay, and then give me a plan. Okay, how are you going to go ahead and take what you've done, whether it was back at the beginning of the year or if it was stuff at, back in February, and give me a plan for how you're going to improve it. It could be a new or a follow-up interview. Maybe it's going back and redoing some of the graphics that you've created. Maybe it's just going back and looking at more job listings and seeing if you're finding something that you hadn't looked at before. And after you submit your plan, please give me a bit of time to give you some feedback on that. But then I want you to go ahead and execute that plan. And then when we get into the new information, when you get to the final report, you have something new that you can add to it. Now, I do want to make sure that this is clear to everyone, since I have had several people not turn in, or at least not complete, some of the past checkpoints and the assignments here. So the self-selection project improvement is not replacing missing or incomplete past portions. Okay, those still need to be done. Okay, that is very important that you're including those. But once you have those, and if you get those back to me in a timely manner, I can still give you an idea of where you might be able to do some self-reflections and some improvements after those are turned in. Okay, probably the biggest one that had some problems with this was 3.1.0, and we'll talk in separate conversations about how we can still work on that if needed. So what's that final report going to look like? Well, you're going to do what I'm doing right now. You're going to create a video. I want it to be something that is easy enough to go ahead and share with others, because this is, while it's intended to be for a grade, I want this to be something that you can take some serious pride in and want to be able to share it, whether it's part of a college application or if it's something that you want to apply for a job for, or you want to become famous on YouTube. This is something that you should put some time and effort into, so it's something that is worth showing off your skills and your abilities and how you can dive into a long-term project and come up with some amazing products. So it doesn't matter to me if it's a PowerPoint like this one, where you're basically doing the voice over it. It could be a deeper video production, similar to some of what I've tried to produce in terms of our lessons since we've had the school closing. And you can do a digital video of yourself. It could be editing various clips together, and most of you should have access to things like Windows Movie Maker or iPhone or iVideo or anything. Okay, you can produce this on your cell phones if you need to. Okay, but try and come up with a well-polished product that you're happy to show off. Okay, because I do want you aiming for that higher quality, and I know that you guys are capable of that. So I'm going to be pretty lenient in terms of the actual requirements. Video needs to be at least 3 minutes. Please do not go more than 8 minutes. That's going to be kind of the maximum. And I think that's more than enough time for you to go ahead and convey a lot of the information that you guys have collected over the year. You should be using elements from all of the existing work. So you need to be using stuff from when we looked at the interviews to what you got with the career descriptions and the jobs that you looked at. You need to make sure you're incorporating some of the statistics and the educational stuff that we got out of the third section. There will be some stuff about having full citations. I do want to see your documented research from across the entire year, not just what you may use to increase your quality for this quarter. But the checkpoint, okay, the things that you need to have in that video. Identify who you are. Please identify that it's for Principles of Engineering. Put your date on it. Okay, I want something that you can go back in the future and you can look and say, oh yeah, I did that. So give it a title. Be clever. You don't have to be bland, kind of like this set of slides are. In terms of the introduction, okay, make sure you're talking about the career that you investigated. Okay, why did you choose that field? And you can include why you talked to a specific type of engineer or why you chose a separate field from what they covered. But make sure you're kind of giving it an introduction in terms of minimum information. Okay, what's the best and worst part of the career that you've looked at. That's pulling some of the information out of the interview, but part of it is the overall summary of what you've done. Talk about what you learned from the engineer or technician that you talked to. You can include part of a recording that you did with them. Just make sure that you got that permission from them. I think most of you did. Identify the careers. Identify the skills that you need if you're going into that field. Something you need to learn, something you need to develop. Maybe it's some of the advice that the interview gave you. Maybe it's things that you got from the job descriptions. But I do want you to look at what you think those biggest challenges are going to be in terms of entering that career. What's needed in terms of that education? What's needed in terms of those skills that you develop? I know some of you are looking at beyond just what you could start as a bachelor's degree from a four-year university. I think some of you are picking careers where you need to have certain certifications, or it's going to take more than just a bachelor's degree. So think about what is that end goal. Please also go back and look at some of the statistical information. Okay, what's the value and demand for that field? Is it something that is going to be viable in 5 to 10 years when you finish your college educations, if that's the path you choose? Some of the careers that you're looking at, they may be dwindling, others may be growing. And honestly, I don't know how the coronavirus is going to influence some of that, but that may be something to look into. Now, there's plenty of other things that you can put into there. You can do the required details within a minute or two fairly easily. Think about what's going to make your video stand out, what your information is going to go above and beyond to show and tell. And that could include just interesting things that you learned. Maybe you're looking at the other careers. Maybe the one that you looked into is not necessarily the one that you think is going to be the best fit. Talk about the colleges that you want to go to, hopefully more than just for the athletics programs they offer, but what they offer academically. Some of you have made it a point. You want to go to a school that has internship programs. Others, it was international travel and study abroad programs. So figure out what your college future may look like. Or find some more statistics, more information about why it's a cool field to look into. Now, the conclusion, which is not optional, is probably where the most important things are going to be. What is the most important thing that you learned out of this? Okay, does not necessarily need to be about the career. It can go ahead and be talking about what the technicians, what the engineers do, how they may require to study multiple fields to be able to do their jobs well. But I also want you to basically answer the question, is this a career path that you're actually interested in going into? And every year I have some students that say, absolutely, this is what I want to go into. And I have others that say, no, I'm not interested in this at all. It was cool doing the research, but it's not the path that's right for me. And I think that's a good reflection for many of you at this point, because next year, when you get to be a junior grade, you're going to start looking at the colleges that you're actually applying to and the path that you're wanting to go into. So definitely look into answering that question. Definitely think about it. And then finally, the citations, and I'm going to go ahead and update this. It can be APA, Chicago, or the MLA format, but I do want to see formatted citation. Doesn't need to be included in the video. Should be a separate file. But I do want to see basically all of the research and the documentation that you've used over the course of the year. In terms of the submission, preferably you're going to have these as links, but if you need to, you'll be able to go ahead and upload the video files onto Canvas. Because this is going to be due towards the end of the year, late submissions are not going to be an option. So you definitely need to be paying attention to that time management side. And also don't forget to turn in the citations. I want to know the sources that you used. Also, in terms of these videos, you got to make sure that it's going to be playable on a school computer. Now granted, I'm not using a school computer, but a standard Windows, or in this case a Macintosh computer, make sure I can read that file, because if I can't view that video, it's going to be very hard for me to be able to give you feedback on it. And it's going to be hard for others to use it as well. So if you put it up on a Google Drive, make sure that you give us permissions that anyone has the link can view it. If you put it up onto YouTube, make sure that it's something that anyone who has the link can see it, because I'm not probably going to have time to ask for you to enable those permissions. Another thing, and I've had this happen in one of the videos, is make sure that the audio works. Okay, after you edit and you format, publish that video, watch it before you submit it, because I've had some amazing videos and the audio disappeared halfway through, and I hated that because I really wanted to complete that video and I just couldn't because dead silence. Okay, so in terms of publishing, something that you should be able to put into an online portfolio, onto a website that you may have. They can be uploaded to Canvas. I really don't like that option though, because I am looking at having it so we can have like a public classroom viewing of this. So you're not only just telling me what you've learned, but you're sharing it with your classmates. And I think that'd be a good way to kind of end the year, especially with the coronavirus closure and us not necessarily having that FaceTime. So I do recommend YouTube or Google Drive. Both of those you can provide a link with. I really do encourage it's something that you can make public, because again, this is not just for my class. I want this to be something you can use above and beyond the school. I want it to be something that you can send out as part of a job application or your resume. So tentative deadlines. Okay, I do want the checkpoint where you have the plans for your project improvement plan turned in by May 4th. It's a Monday. It's in about 2 weeks. Should give you enough time. Feel free to go ahead and submit that earlier than that. I'll have a checkpoint assignment set up in Canvas, so you can go ahead and take care of that. But I want to be able to give some feedback to help you guys find a better way of improving your projects. Finally, the tentative due date for the videos is going to be May 15th. That's also currently the day that schools will be open again. I have no idea if that's going to be true or not, but since I know that there are plenty of schools around the country that have basically said buildings will be closed for the academic school year. But that gives us a couple of days so we can see about getting that classroom time where we can view and talk about what we've learned and what we've developed. So make sure you're getting the videos kind of finished by May 15th, but you do need to go ahead and have a checkpoint before that. So just some refresher notes, include data, charts. Some of these you copied or you referenced from other online sources, but it could be something that you've created. Talk about the growth. How is that career improved? How does more education help? Okay. In terms of your education, again, go back, look at some of the options out there. I know some of these links are not necessarily up to date, but should give you an idea of kind of what's out there. This goes back to taking care of that 3.1.0 assignment if for some reason you didn't finish or you didn't submit that. Because I do want you to kind of recognize that different schools are offering different programs. Some of them need more math, others may not need those skills. Okay? So if you have questions, keep in mind I will have some office hours available. I do look forward to having conversations about this and how you guys can improve this, because in my experience with Project Lead the Way, one of the things that I hear the most from students that have gone on to college is they really appreciate having these long-term assignments, because in college, like, you will have assignments that will take the entire semester for you to go ahead and work through it and complete it, usually with partners. And the people that have that time management skill and they've done projects like this usually feel more comfortable with it. But they've also recognized that those that don't have it are pretty obvious. And this is not just about a grade. This is about helping give you some of those life skills that you will need, whether you've realized that from the school closures this year, or if it's just knowing what's coming in the future. It is very important that you're able to go ahead and manage your time, manage your resources, and juggle around multiple projects. So end goal is having something awesome worth showing off. I think all of you are capable of that. If you need help, let me know. I'll certainly be posting some more information about tools that I use, tools that you can use, ways to go ahead and take care of these videos. because I see some amazing things, and I think it's going to be a great way to go ahead and end our school year. So, as you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, stay safe, stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.